I'll just say that I think it's great that we're doing Saturdays, and I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But spending a month on each person doesn't really work out for what we're really looking to do, I think. It's good practice and a good start, but...
I expressed that also, yes.
What's wrong with it?
Nothing's wrong with it. It can keep on going as it will, but I think that we need to also make space for other formats and other times, and having more people maybe simultaneously doing groups that are doing deep dives into people's work.
You know, that was something I was planning on discussing this coming Saturday, is that right now we only have this Saturday, which is drawn this focused deep dive into people. But obviously these attempts have been done before. You know, you've done one-on-ones that are deep dives into people, and people watch those. Heiner's been on a hot seat. He mentions that about a year and a half or a year ago, he was in a similar format. And I think that only keeping them to Saturdays does make this go out, you know, several years, even just given the number of people already in the group. So I wonder, though, whether or not it would be possible for somebody to say, hey, like Glenn did. Glenn said, hey, I'd like to be next. And then say, okay, you know, let me set it on.
Tuesday.
Exactly. Just set a time, right? And just go for it. And I think we can get people to sort of step up that way. Right now, kind of the people on Saturdays kind of have an advantage because that's a time people know. But I do think that this format does need to, and here's the tricky word again, scale. Otherwise, you know, people like Doug are saying, well, am I going to wait till 2020 to get on the hot seat? Or, you know, somebody like Cheryl maybe say, hey, I like this format. And she's coming in. She may be person number 13, and, you know, she's out a couple of years. And that's what I mean when I ask those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yes.
And by the way, I don't think that's a Heiner intervention, isn't it? I mean, it was, as far as I know, it's been Doug who's been a strong proponent of this format, which is awesome for the people in the hot seat. But it's kind of a waiting pattern for some of the people who feel like they want to take that hot seat.
Yeah, so what's the context here? What I see, you've been in the hot seat, Tammy and Sam, you are in it right now, and it brings you a lot of good. That's what I can sense. That's one thing. So in that aspect, nothing needs to change because it's great. And you look from practical scaling or more efficiency-based way at it. Yeah, this is of course this nobody can watch all of it and absorb all of it and do everything. So for the audience, it might be different. And when I had today, I spent a whole day trying to understand Heiner, and I'm rewatching his 2016 thing, and I'm just halfway through, and I already have just for myself here all these notes, just to kind of have a sense, not an understanding, but just a first sense, a felt sense of what he is about, what he tries to convey, and also why it doesn't come across so easily, because and I started the conversation with him on the chat, you might have seen, and well, he keeps throwing complete libraries at me all the time, with saying that, Harry, don't spend any time on it. So if it's for me understanding Sam, Tammy, and Glenn, and Heiner, there's only 4 people. That takes me the rest of my life to kind of align all the value, because it's real value that you all bring. So and we can kind of scale it up by doing the whole week different people doing different people, but I would not be able to absorb all of it. I already missed most of the Tammy rewatches a lot, but I scratched the surface, as it so to say.
I confess, same for me.
Yeah. So what do we want? Do we want the people to understand each other? What we said, Tammy, you got something to say there?
Well, I mean, I think that we need to distribute the work so that we're
Yeah,
all
I
learning.
got that.
Yeah.
I got all that. But then what is the outcome of all this work?
Well, here's the original vision in terms of what was in my mind, is that people in the group would choose other people that they're inspired by and do deep dives, like the 3-part series.
Yeah.
And perhaps at the end of each of those, when people are really comfortable, that we do a short piece that's that person articulating what they've been able to articulate in that hour or whatever in a short segment, so that there's a short little segment that people can, with that person saying, you know, this is my thing, right? So that there's 2 files, and a shorter one to kind of draw people in, so that that piece can be used to help to organize what people are interested in and what people are doing.
Okay, the entrance would be from, okay, there's looking at approaching it from the outside in, as just somebody being interested. There are excerpts of Glenn, of you, of Sam, and they see excerpts say, hey, I'm about this 2-minute piece, and like, this guy is about this and that, and then I want to see more. Then you can get to see the whole 6 hours, something like that.
Yeah,
I actually think that is extremely useful. It's like, 2-minute, 40-second teasers for movies.
yeah.
I also think that more can be done in written or published format.
Yeah,
And curated.
Yeah.
Could you take this one step at a time then, slowly, because I'm in the audience, I'm in the group now as well. Though this excerpt, testing this on you guys, could you, from what is already recorded from you, Tammy, or Sam, what do you want to say, have already an idea what could be in this 2-minute excerpt, is the word?
I have an idea, yes, because...
Okay. So that would work for you guys. 2 minutes, you can, I'm about this, and then it's worthwhile the way you bring the trailer that.
So one of the frameworks that past work is like separating that into, what do you got, what do you need, what do you think, and what do we do? So there could be 4.
A format for this.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, what do I have? What do I have to offer? And then what do I need? Those are important things, and they're different. And then the what do you think is very specific to, and could be, we could call the group to say, can you drop your 3 minutes on this topic? And those pieces could be strung together or just linked in something, so that you can see this a constellation of thought that's kind of emergent, then go into a conversation. Yeah, Sam.
So I think that one way to get some collaboration around this, and also to stimulate people connecting, is to do it in an interview format. So if you've got these 4 questions, I could take these 4 questions, and let's say I directed at Harry. Harry, what do you got? What do you need? What do you think? What do we do? And that could be a quick 2-minute, 40-second interview. And
that's not going to be it's going to be a couple of minutes for each one.
Wait.
I think
we're talking about not doing the complete vision. We're talking about a teaser that gives people a sense of what it is that might be in the longer format.
Okay, so let's test it right now. Sam, what do you got?
No, wait, time out. I do think that because it's short and concise, it does need to be prepared. So in other words, if 2 people say, okay, we're going to do this interview, we're going to do it for 2 minutes and 40 seconds, okay? And here are the 3 points I want to bring to question number 1, 2 points in question number 3, blah, 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 and have that ready to go, so that you're not umming and awing and looking up to the right, blah, blah, blah. You're doing that in a more prepared fashion. That, I think, is a good format. It's not necessarily, I think, it doesn't need to be kind of excerpts from the existing 6 hours or 12 hours of, the last month or so. That's what I would say, because if you've been in the hot seat, you revisit some of these topics, and you could put together that outline fairly quickly. Over.
Could that work the other way around as well? If we invite everybody to make this 2.40 summary of themselves?
Yes.
That will be
Yes.
helpful, and then the most interesting one that gets the first hot seat.
Most interesting. That's an interesting phrase. Yeah, in fact, I think that there were contribution inventories that were attempted. You know, remember the Matrix way back in September or October, Tammy? It was kind of like a version of trying to get, hey, what are people bringing, right? Not in video format, but just in bullet point format. And it didn't go very far. But I think now we have a deeper understanding of what it could be. Over.
So back in the day, another thing that I did was with the Marshall Gantz work, the story of self, us, and now. So that's that in that what we did is we would do, just like you suggested, Sam, people writing down their story and the key points in their story that really kind of brought them to the work that they're doing. And it's really all focused on what is it that's really living in you, because you're telling the story through that lens of what's really there. But those stories and experience from your past that fed into that is really quite critical. And each time you tell the story, it's different. And so what we were doing was we would have people do walk them through that process or have them come prepared with it, and then do a 5-minute thing on their story of self, us, and now. So that's like what they bring to the table. What's the story of us? Like, what's the current thing that's really happening that we're responding to? And then now, what's critical to happen right now? So it brings it really into present moment. So we would do a 5-minute one, and then another 3-minute one, and then another 1-minute one. And what that does is that gives people a time to be able to practice how to tell their story in a really concise way. That has those high points of learning that kind of show people, rather than tell them a story. It's showing people what has formed in their life, what they've been able to understand. So that's another thing we could weave into the what do you got, what do you need, what do you think, what do we do, in terms of a process.
So I think that's remarkable. And I think if we actually have that discipline, it could produce marvelous things. I'm thinking more simply about a 1-step process rather than a 3-step process, because I think, we want to get going on this, right? And then we can actually refine it as we go.
See, but Sam, this is you not having done it. This is me having done that with hundreds of people.
Yeah,
and
but doesn't that take more preparation and production? And
people have see, this is the production. It's press, record, it's like start and stop is all.
Oh,
and
so you're saying in one session you do a 5-minute, then you say, okay, what do you think about that? And then immediately go into a 3-minute, and
yes.
then
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes. As a practice, it's like a 10-minute process. After doing there's the deep dive where people, I would suggest that that's at the end of a deep dive, so that people are comfortable, they know their story, they can really feel what they want to share, and then they can have more facility and comfortability to be able to just drop it down.
10, 5, 2, 1, is that what you said?
It takes about 10 minutes to do a 5-minute piece, a 3-minute piece, and a 1-minute piece.
I'm envisioning a block internally on this, because I know that there are different audiences that I want to speak to. And if I'm speaking to GCC, I want to talk certain things in certain ways. If I'm talking to Silicon Valley, SVELC, I want to talk certain things certain ways. If I'm talking to the Tantra community, I want to do something a little bit differently, right? So not knowing where the audience is focused gives me some ambiguity, right? Whereas if I really want to target, I probably want to do a half a dozen of these.
Exactly, which is why start and stop is great. Like, if you have in your mind, this is all to be whatever serves the person in the hot seat, right? So yes, it's to consider your audience, and maybe you do 6 of that. Maybe you're comfortable with your story at this point, Sam, and you don't need to practice that. Maybe what it is that you want to do is to present for different audiences. Exactly. But the key thing is ready to do it, someone to hold space for you, and start and stop, record, have that other person be on the controls so that you're held. Mm-hmm. And then those pieces are created, they're done. All they need to do is have front and backs on them if an intro and an extra.
Okay, so let me reverse this a little bit, okay? How about let's ask each person how they want to be seen.
Sure.
In other words, Glenn, how do you want to be seen? Do you want a 1-minute summary? Do you want a 6-hour lecture? Do you want a published, 14-page essay? How is it that you want to be introduced to the world? And different people like Alex for a long time didn't want to appear on video at all.
So Sam, how would you answer that question yourself? And I mean, the good thing is that we've got us right here, right now, and we're perfect test subjects. If I were to be asked, how would I want to present? There's several formats in which I'd like to present. I'd like to be able, and depending on the topic or the area of focus, it's very different. There's some stuff that I want to do definitely in a group where I kind of want to step back and hold space. There's other group ones where I want to be able to present, and there's others where I want to really feel that emergent dialogue.
Yeah, context is everything.
Yeah. So I don't think it's about hard and fast rules on what it is we're going to do, but rather just testing forms and seeing what works. And the other thing, and the reason why I'm kind of pushing back a little bit, is people don't know what they want, Sam.
No.
It's emergent.
I didn't have an answer. I didn't have an answer for that one myself in this conversation. Do you, Sam?
Yeah, I think that you really have to ask another question, which is, what do you want to say and what do you want people to know about you?
Yeah, what do you got?
Exactly. And Glenn does a really good job with a written format.
Yeah.
You do a good job with a video format. Yeah. Harry does a great job with a graphic format.
Yeah.
I might do a great job with a mind map format.
Yeah.
And saying to everybody, okay, let's do a 5-3-1 in video format might not be the single best way for everybody. That's why I'm trying to say, let's go to everybody and see how it is that they want to be seen, how they want to show up.
Sam, as a result of your presentations and also from what I learned from you before that, I keep going back to your Doug Engelbart vision, that it is totally unproductive to kind of keep throwing copies of everything to everybody. And I try to kind of practice that using like a Google Doc for people to respond, or a kind of wiki approach. And people just don't use it and don't know how to use it. They don't connect with it. They make copies of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They download it and they change it and they send it back.
Absolutely.
That's another point. And I think it's an extremely valuable concept and doesn't ground, apparently.
There isn't what? I missed that part.
It doesn't get grounded. It doesn't get, people don't practice it. And I try it myself as well. And my stuff is also all over the place all the time. And I want to have it in one place. And this is, my skull is the place that as much as possible approaches it, and they're not even there. So is that useful? But when you start saying, okay, Glenn writes, I do PowerPoint, Harry makes a drawing, and Tammy does a video. How do we kind of string this together in a way that they have some coherence and clarity?
Yeah, the way we do it is with links.
Yeah.
That's the only way we have today. I mean, obviously we can think of better ways to do it, but right now what we have are links.
Yeah, just what we can do is stepping forward into a more practical way of kind of having these overwhelming amounts of different formats and conversations and channels, and I can keep track, and I'm looking forward that we all have what seems to be good now, an own WordPress base where I can dump my shit on, and I can link it to you, and you can link yours to mine and all that. That's already a step forward to me. But still, and then my videos will be on my blog, and I can point to Tammy's and yours, and they kind of, and we can broadcast them to Facebook and whatever. That's how I see it at this moment.
Yeah, see, to me, I think it's important that people start expressing. And to tell them where to express is already an obstacle to that expression.
Yes. Yes, but whatever the output and the document, the artifacts as you call them, as Tammy calls them, they should be collected and harvested and mostly also edited to kind of to be somewhat digested.
Yeah, I think that's a secondary step. I think, first is to make them exist.
Yeah.
And then when they exist, yes, you can organize it one way, I can organize it in different ways, Google can organize it a different way, but that's a different problem.
Okay, make them exist. I follow this. I agree.
And that's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
So for me, my question is, how do we spread the load and have people kind of adopt the practices of whether that be recorded video or working together in a document, or otherwise collaborating.
Yeah, well, I know you both try to do very hard to make this happen, and I now have this assignment for a client. I try to kind of practice all the things I learned also in GCC to get people to collaborate and to give them a space so that they kind of start expressing themselves. It's like, yeah, most people don't even respond to mails or anything or invitations, even when you can kind of be inviting and helpful. And most people say, right, I have a meeting, and then the meeting is gone. And right before the meeting, I check what I had done before the meeting, and then I rush in. I said, then they shout, I was too busy to kind of really absorb it because I was so busy. And then we proceed at where we left off the meeting before that.
Mm-hmm.
People don't own the stuff. It's not that they just follow the procedures and they make the movements, but they're not in it.
Okay, so
Frustration, sorry.
yeah, totally, it's frustrating. Now, one thing that I think I would suggest is, I really like the idea of specifically convening, like choosing specific people to convene according to a topic because of what they bring to the table. And then, so an invitation first, and maybe a video invitation. This is something that I haven't been doing, but I know has power. If you create a video that has someone's name in it, that's inviting them, that's a thing. And people feel respected and invested in, and all of those things. And then a period of, what do we want to talk about together? Actually, this is what I'm suggesting. But as the group convenes, to be able to have all the people put in what they would like to talk about, so that there's some collective will in terms of what is the focus. Then in present time, when the session is happening, that can be adjusted or added to, but it should have a format that brings everyone into the room so that they have a moment to like speak their intention and clarify that part. And then the meat and potatoes of the session. And then what we will agree to do coming out of the session. What makes sense? Is it making connections with other people? Is there another session with a slightly different focus that helps to go deeper on what we identified? And so, next steps and so that it's a living process that has like the beginning intention and the harvest that is participated with in the forming of by every person at best. I think that is like simple enough, and yeah, it requires people to change their behavior to like read stuff before a meeting. Yes, definitely.
That's the hardest thing, changing behavior of people. That's what I can't do that, and I can't expect people to do that, but that's what needs to be done, that people change.
Well, one of the pieces with that though is that people are like this is literally your reputation. It's you on the screen. So however you show up, when you show up unprepared in a video, in a live video setting, and that's something that's going to be shared, that's going to wake you up a little bit. And each person is going to be then a little more aware of their responsibility to show up or not.
Have you proposed this format to the larger group, like Doug and Anna?
Not yet. I mean, this is the thing that's lived in me from the beginning.
So would these forums be by invitation only, or would you announce it, specifically invite others, but be open to anyone participating?
I think both and, Sam. Like some things it would not be helpful to have someone who's a newbie walking in, because they're going to just have a lot of questions and it's going to derail the conversation. So you need a certain level of agreement between the participants around what it is that we're going to focus our time and attention on. And yeah, that's a thing, because I want my time so if we're spending 2 hours together and there's 10 participants, that's 20 hours. And we want that 20 hours to be more meaningful than just like trying to do a 10-person, 10-legged race or whatever.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. How important is this scaling thing?
Do we want to live?
Is that up to me?
I think it's up to all of us. It's up to all of us to get our shit together.
We're the ones we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not criticizing anything. I'm just thinking out loud here. We have 900 people watching us. How is that about scaling?
Not necessarily. We have 900 people in the Facebook group, right?
Yeah, in Facebook.
I think each video gets maybe 2 to 10 viewings.
Okay.
I've been counting.
No. It's more than that now. We're getting more like 15 to 20.
Okay, maybe I check it too early.
We have these hundreds of potential contacts. How do we use that? These are real people, mostly.
See, I'm still on we have to get ourselves sorted first. We have to demonstrate.
I don't think there's an issue there. It's got to be a pull that we represent something that they find they want to be a part of. And if we don't show that, they're going to stay on the sidelines. They're going to be active in other groups.
We agree. Yes.
Yeah.
So more clarity in the format and the stuff we offer. Is that basically what this is about?
Well, I think yes, but I think it's got to be more. It's got to be some kind of thing that they can see is forward movement. And I know that's an industrial frame, but that's how people think.
Not necessarily.
That's how people think. Yeah, but he'll be watching this video.
We can put this out. I'm just kidding.
No, you're not really.
Sorry, Doug.
Well, there's the reality of the world we're in that we need to connect to as well.
Absolutely. And there's the reality of how people think today, without having spent 1,000 hours in some of these conversations.
Let's agree on that. We have to meet them where they are.
Right.
And talk to them in the frame they understand.
Yeah, otherwise you're just frustrating yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was good.
I know. I love you guys. I think we just have to tune up a few things. I think
we just demonstrate a couple of different things. Let's call one of these meetings that's focused. And then maybe, by the way, one of the themes that went by that I thought was really cool was, what about love rooms? So many organizations have war rooms. Let's create love rooms.
Okay.
And I thought that was a meme that went by that I thought, wait, there's something there. We could jump on that one.
Okay, make it specific.
What's in a war room? A war room is a situation assessment where all the threats are, where you can actually deploy your resources and counteract threats, and you have a timeline of what you want to do. How does that inspire what we might want to call a love room?
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that, but it's a question that I would
Well,
pose.
it's probably by contrasting we already get. I think the only thing is that the focus is different.
Yeah.
And not about countering, but kind of generating stuff. And
Yeah.
what
So
do we have?
instead of looking at threats, let's look at opportunities, right?
Yes, and what do we have
Yeah.
that does help, and what can we do
Right.
on all that? It's basically that.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels more like what I know from about design workshops.
Yeah.
That they're well prepared. And you know
Yeah.
that everybody has their homework done and they bring their goods to the table and there's a shared purpose. And then you start kind of fast prototyping. This is what I got. This is what I got. Oh, you had knowledge brokering. Oh, I don't know this, but I know somebody who does. Then you put them on the phone and all that. This all can be done.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's an exciting idea, I think, is, and what I'd like to, Harry and I are going to a place without Wi-Fi, so I don't, and I'm supposed to be on holiday in that time, so I think.
Throw away your cell phones. Don't even take your cell phones or laptops. Harry will have his crayons and markers and paper. Okay, that'll be enough.
Anyway, but if we were to have 1 or 2 times a week an open space that's open for something like 3 or 4 hours for people to be able to drop in and say, and be able to present what they're up to, so that we can we can have an open space for people to be able to drop in and say, and have some willing listeners that would be willing to hold space for what they're bringing in some sort of format that is the what they want to bring to the table. I think we can create a bunch of smaller pieces if we create a format there that where people can just kind of rest into, to be able to introduce each other to the community and create these smaller pieces, not by post-production, but by in the session, be like, okay, we're ready to go for Joe. And you know, do the start and stop so that it's already, the post-production is basically there.
So let me see if I heard you, okay? Let's say we schedule time starting at blah, blah, blah on such a day, okay? And we break up the session, echo, cancel. And we break up the session into, let's say, 3 or 5 minute intervals. And people sign up for a specific interval. And we say, you get 3 to 5 minutes to make whatever pitch you want to the GCC community, and it's a hard stop after 3 or 5 minutes. We take maybe 1 or 2 minutes to debrief or whatever, and then we just move on. There are conferences or unconferences or open spaces, you know, or that have that format, certainly at the beginning of these unconferences. And that's a way to be that attractor to say, hey, you know, 15 people said thumbs up on that one. Let's schedule that for a deep dive at some point. So I like that because that begins to be a way to invite the other 900 people who are right now inactive to say, what you got? Do you have enough to fill 3 minutes that'll actually, you know, make my blood boil or whatever it is, you know, the impression.
What you got in the sense of not selling stuff, but showing be present what you have to give and not to sell.
Yeah.
And also not complaining and explaining. Yeah. No explaining and no complaining.
Yeah. And if 2 people show up, it's a 10-minute call. If 20 people show up, it's a 2-hour call or whatever it is. Okay. But we just leave it open. People sign up and we go and we listen and we receive and we support, and then we chop it up into little 3 or 5 minute things. We post that and let people respond to that. Is that what I heard?
I would also, pretty much, except the 3 to 4 minute thing. I think that you have to give people the time that they need to express themselves, and that shouldn't be constrained at the outset when someone's coming in. Like it can be asked for, but there's an emergent allowance of people's comfortability that I think is important. And it might take a minute. Like, yes, we ask people to come prepared to share their thing and they'll do it in the way, but like 3 to 4 minutes is not very long, Sam.
Okay, how about we ask people how much they think they need and we schedule exactly that time? I'm just trying to figure out how we cycle people through.
I think that it's going to have to be an emergent flow in understanding how it's going to work. Because maybe,
but isn't that what we have today in the open space?
Now I'm going to get lost. Okay, do we take a structure and give it as a framework so the people then they know what they're up to, or are we giving kind of some rubber band structure so once they earn it, it kind of goes away again?
well, I just think 3 to 4 minutes is too short, is what I'm flagging.
Then
Probably 10 minutes.
okay.
Okay, set it at 10. No Q&A, right?
I think Q&A is important.
If there's Q&A, then it's going to be open-ended. Or you limit that as well as part of the 10 minutes.
I think you can do a 5-minute like feedback and connection round. Like, this is what I heard, because I think that like this is essentially shortening the deep dive into a quick deep dive.
It's a shallow
right?
dive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, a surface dive, surfacing. You're surfacing things, right? And then, but having that group piece of this is what I heard, that's part of what was missing for me. Like, Harry's right. I didn't finish. There's no way. Yeah, I'm nowhere near done with my presentations. But this is that. Us doing this now is living it by doing it. Like, what is it that we're actually going to do? And so anyway, the point is that what there wasn't was the feedback from each person of this is what I heard from you. Not that I'm suggesting that this happens in this shorter thing in a fulsome way, but in a shorter way, so that people can feedback what they heard and make the connections of who they think could maybe help that person, or other projects that they can see that's connected, because part of it is that for me.
Yes, there's two words come to mind. That's feature creep. Is it just a trailer to attract people and make them interested, and then we can do all this stuff? Or do we want to kind of squeeze all that into the trailer, which wouldn't work? And I think it just, the first 2 minutes, I'm still thinking at the 240 teaser kind of format that Sam suggested. That's a very rigid format. And if people are not ready to do that, okay, then we can maybe give them some time to kind of do that. But yeah, it's either they are ready to do this and they do it, or they need a process to get there. And these are two different things. And that process to get there, it's a learning process or a growing process. You cannot kind of frame this in a rigid time frame. That needs time and attention and feedback and people saying, this is what I heard. That's how I see it. So there's a growing towards the point that I can say, okay, there's my 10 minutes. I'm ready for it. Okay, I try the 5-er, I try the 3-minute version, try the 1-minute version. And it's cut, stop, and then, okay, I'll just, no post-process is good enough and safe enough to try for me. But if I'm not there yet, and most people aren't, okay, you got, how many hours did you get, Tammy, to get your story across? And you're not even ready, as you just said. So
10.
Yes, and the first time Heine in the hot seat, what is now kind of like, that's like 2016. He's still mulling on it and coming back on it and still frustrated that he did not get his stuff across while he very much prepared, as he said. And he did not get just a few minutes, he got maybe 2 hours, and that's not enough. And I listened to Sam, and I don't know how your experience is, Sam, but also it's very helpful that you have the unlimited feeling that you can say anything you want without thinking about the clock. Is that right or not?
No, I think about the clock a lot.
Yes.
I actually have prepared. I have outlines coming to these conversations, but I let the flow take the conversation where it wants to go.
And what does that do with the time?
Because I'm sensitive to not waste it in whatever sense waste means in this context.
I know your carefulness in that, and I'm not trying to address that. But how does having strict frames in time relate to really bringing out what you have to bring?
There's two ways to answer that, right? I mean, if you've got a fixed time budget then you really have to get to what the essence is,
Yes.
and it takes a lot of preparation.
Yes.
If we have the open format, which has been the last month and a half, then we can actually spend a little bit more time in derivation in the path to actually give some more context to what it is that people like Tammy and myself want to do and believe and act.
Okay.
And to switch in the middle of it doesn't work.
No,
If you start one way, you got to go, and complete that task, that approach. Because, for someone to say, okay, well, you spent 4 hours already, now wrap it up in the next session, just give us what you got. I would have spent my time differently if that was the directive.
Yeah. I remember being in a group therapy, and there the facilitator said, okay, you have 2 minutes to say what you got. And then people prepared themselves mentally, and they were very concise as a result of just the framing.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I agree. And,
I have another question. Are we solving a problem that really exists, or are we solving a problem that doesn't exist?
okay. I think that it's really critical that we figure out how to let each other know quickly who we are and what we bring to the table, so that we can see the map of our community.
Okay.
And so I'm motivated to do that and to find ways. Okay, so let's just look at just quickly. Jesse Henshaw watched from the pattern science community and the commons movement, watched my 3-part series with Helmut Leitner, sent a message to me a couple of days ago saying, hey, I watched that. I'll read the message because it's actually awesome. And this is the part. So yeah, she says, Tammy, I'm finding various people who have deep connections, but that won't be really understood without a broad appreciation of each other's backgrounds and work. It made me think of trying your beautiful interviewing method. I watched your exchanges with Helmut Leitner, for example, and was really impressed. Do you have a descriptive reference to how you use it? So this is what I've really been hoping for, which is someone who's like within those communities being like, this is really needed that we know each other well and know our backgrounds so that we understand each other in a deeper way. So it's all and like, what are all the different ways that we can kind of model this and slightly tweak it for each audience, as you say, or each community? Harry.
Yes, this brings me back to fast prototyping. I think just let's try the most simple suggestion that's made there, like the trailer thing, I guess. And you start doing it. And you can always say, oh, you don't like the trailer, make the better version next week. I can update mine every week, can't I? It's just 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I know from my own experience that my story got polished because I had to explain it so often that I kind of felt it became shorter and shorter because I was bored in hearing myself talk about my work. And I it became more and more concise. And now I have just one sentence to the elevator. My elevator pitch is, I sell clarity. And if that resonates, then we can kind of start explaining what that is. So I have, and then if they kind of puzzled, say, yes, I noticed there's a huge demand for it. And then you can start a conversation, but it's just a pitch, but that helps. It's that short and it's true for me.
Sounds transactional.
But this is in the industrial frame. The elevator pitch is an industrial frame thing. That's why I use sell. I mostly give it away, as you might have noticed.
I might have noticed. Thank you.
The reason I asked that question, Tammy, is because you have done a lot already to communicate that people are invited to speak. They have forums of open spaces. There is a format that you've already demonstrated. There's a lot already that says, come give us what you got. So I'm wondering, why do people not take those opportunities? And if we introduce yet another format, is that really going to get at the root of the issue?
That doesn't change a thing. No, you're spot on. That's another aspect, I guess. Most of us in the ever kind of, let's use a large word here, traumas are about being heard, being seen, having their space being held. We're all kind of drilled into kind of not taking any space and not kind of, and only when we get excited and when we get, okay, well, oh, you're kind of attacking my belief system here, now I got something for you. And then there people open their mouth. But otherwise people always wait politely and until they're kind of invited, and even then they shy away. So I think we have to turn this one around. When do people speak up? When do you have when do you speak up, Sam? It's when the boss says you have to make a presentation, right?
You mean at the day gig?
Hmm?
That's a complicated question. I talk to my boss almost every day.
Well, it's like speaking up to the people who need to hear you, or who you want to like to receive what you have to bring.
I'm not sure the point of the question yet. I don't understand.
Tammy, you said, do you get what I'm trying to say?
Just reframe it,
Please.
please.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. Let me talk just for myself here, not talking about the people. I have not learned to step up and speak out and show who I am and what I've got to give. And and while I've been training, that's because I'm working for myself. I have to explain to people, but I still have in my system that I have to wait until it's my turn and somebody else decides if there's a space. And if I'm invited to kind of, Harry, do a pitch somewhere or so, I mostly don't do it. That's what my personal experience is. And if you say people, okay, people, you're all welcome to kind of, tell us what you're about. Well, Tammy does it, and how she doesn't get just, she got one mail from this woman from the patent, and she also just wanted to use it and not present herself. Did you get people come to you, Tammy, saying, okay, give me some of your attention?
Some, yeah. Over this time, there's been quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yeah, probably at least 10. Like Rama, I've done a bunch of different sessions with people that they appreciated, and some of whom have used them, like Klaus. He's out on LinkedIn and got quite a bit of engagement on it around the shift in agriculture, right? So the thing is that these pieces are outside of time and space. They can be used once they're created. They can be used, back to Sam's point of, we just need to make them. And what comes to mind is, when you're doing a comedy show, the first person that takes the stage is the sacrifice, right? So essentially we need some sacrifices, which we are doing. And we've got some awesome people that are us here, all of three of us. There's others in our, Doug's, I think, ready. Glenn has put his hand up to be next. So these kind of, I think the hard part really is getting all of whatever is inside out of the way to be able to fully show up and be present and share it from a place of empowered speech. To be empowered, and to do that is it's an ineffable quality that you can see and sense. I'm still getting there, even after all of this. And so I think that I just, in my own experience, have experienced so much of that barrier of being able to articulate myself. And it's at a number of different levels, like what other people might think of me, how able I am to actually articulate, how comfortable I am with watching myself back. Did I hit the mark or not? So, and what did I miss? And so it really is a learning journey to be able to get the self in a place where I can actually just be a channel and a flow and be really concise and clear. And that's a process. So like expecting people to walk in and be ready, no. And so then considering, I think this is an important piece. When people come into those spaces, like say we had a 4-hour block that I was committed to, and we had a couple of other people that were committed to at least dropping into that to be space holders. That all of, and say 12 people come through that 4 hours, then those pieces that are created, those people review them first before it goes out there so that they actually see and agree that that is representative of what they wanted to say and they were in a good place and feel good about sharing it. And I think that the people share it from their own social media accounts along with those other people that were a part of it, because it's resonant to the people that were in it. And then they can share it to their networks and it can be seen more broadly in that way. But that there's that process where it's like you do it, then the person reviews it, then they say, yeah, I'd really like to put that out there. They post it to their social media and people share their post so that it's coming from them and it's being lifted up by the others. So it's kind of demonstrating some dimensionality in the network, in the choice to actually put it out. That's a really important part of choosing to put yourself out there, is actually pressing post in social media. That's, you've reviewed it, you've seen it, you feel good about it, and you're ready to release it.
Okay. So, where does this bring us?
I can't help but channel my inner Doug. And
Yay!
for the sense of time, because time was addressed this past week. In fact, I brought some of those issues up, and he responded at length to some of my concerns.
Can you articulate it?
Doug's message, if I recall part of it correctly, is that given unbounded time to really just show up and talk about yourself is the way we need to receive each other, no matter how long it takes. That creates a different experience, as you experienced, as I'm experiencing. But as we're experiencing that, my questions in the back of my mind are, how do we get this so that everybody can do this? How do we extend this to everyone? And he pointedly said, this is part of your learning. Don't worry about it. That's just you.
Yeah, but it's not just you. It's such an obvious issue and problem. Like we're if we spend the next 10 years going through these 9 people, we're fucked. 900 people. So and I think that it is just a part of what we need to figure out and design. So I think it's a bit of column A and a bit of column B. People need to, I love that we have this open space where people can really dive deep and that others are committed to spending that time. I don't think it has to be constrained to Saturday at 8 a.m. Pacific or whatever, 1 p.m. And so I think that the success of our community, this community is are people willing to invest in others outside of these different time slots and model the process differently in time? I mean, I would spend a day understanding someone's work. Like, I think Heiner would take a full day or 2 half days at the very least, but maybe closer together and maybe longer.
Well, I spent literally half a day trying to understand part of what Heiner is trying to bring across. And the reason why I do that is I want to understand them, and I feel that what he brings is important, and it's kind of one of those things that kind of makes the frame of reference of many people could make it a little more wider and larger, but he brings it in such a way that I have a really hard time getting it and translating it to somewhat understandable English or German or Dutch or whatever, or pictures or any format. That's one of the things I struggle with. I still have the feeling that it doesn't get any less by getting in the process of getting to know you better, that we all have so much large treasures in us, ourselves, our own experience, and I would like them to find a shared reference frame so that we at least can exchange them in a more practical way than just listening and explaining. I'm somewhat tired of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not there yet. Of course, I'm thinking about my own visual language that might be helpful, and that's why I'm kind of a little bit testing in my sketches. They seem to get some traction, but
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm becoming hungry, my friends, so I have to start doing something about that as well.
Can I throw one last idea in here before we drop off? It goes back to this notion of meaning.
Yeah.
To me, something has meaning if it changes the way I feel, act, or think. If it doesn't change how I feel, act, or think, to me, it has no meaning whatsoever. So if these conversations are to have meaning in my life, it's got to change how I feel, act, or think. Now, they have definitely changed how I feel and think. And to some possibly indirect ways, they have changed the way I act. But I think if people are coming to this anew, they're looking for more impact on what the acting side of things could be. I'm not saying that the feeling and thinking are irrelevant or immaterial or not important, but people don't come necessarily having adopted our language, our frames of reference, our context. They come from where they come from today. So that's just one idea I'd like to bring. So this notion of having meaning in what do we do? You know, there's always this doing thing, which is still part of being, that I think is holding people up over.
Okay, I like to add my 2 cents here in the what I got out of my work in advertisement. People have like an attention span of 2 seconds in which they decide if something is interesting and relevant or not. And the question they have in their mind from their frame of reference is, what's in it for me? Does it deserve my attention? And if there's a yes, they might spend 2 minutes. And if there's a yes, we can't take any longer. That means that we have to kind of have snippets of information, that chunks that size that exactly fit those frames of reference, which, and we've been there, means that we have to make very precise, tailor-made messages to tailor to the specific target groups. And that's another thing, and I don't want to get into that as well. Then we have to kind of consider for ourselves, we want to reach everybody, we want to scale up, but who do we really want to reach first? Do we want to drag in the collaboration because they're the most people that are easiest to get in and the most helpful to have in the group? and not just anybody wandering in and saying, "Oh, I'm the floating around guy, and I like it here." That's how you got me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think being direct and specific and really considering who is important, and ourselves first, from the center of who is already here. Because I'll note that there are some really key people that I deeply respect, like Neil, who aren't present, but are aware and have a lot to offer.
Could we shortlist our audience?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Well,
priority list. This first him, then her, and then etc. Who would you want to have in next in the group?
That's a big conversation.
Well, I think that there are people in the group already that aren't as pulled in or bought in.
The two, yes.
And I think that I'm more drawn to clarifying within than reaching out.
Okay.
And I think that that already, like if we choose from topic or what is it, adventure or quest, if we come from there, then the participants, I think, become more obvious who would be useful or helpful.
Okay.
And they would self-select.
That's right. That's right. We can put out an invitation, but I think that these conversations are like, let's have a process where we, like Fleming does, we put out a topic and then, but have a step of people are going to say that they're coming and feed into the conversation. I think that that's useful. Maybe. Shall we wrap?
Michelle.
Okay.
I don't know how to wrap.
Okay. That's one way. Harry has the power.
I'm just smiling and waving, that's all I'm doing. Any closing comments from Mr. Hahn, maybe?
Yeah, I think that the invitation has been extended. I still don't know how we solve the problem of people feeling like they can step up and contribute. And to me, coming up with a new format may or may not, but it seems like it's not really addressing yet the root of that motivation.
No, I'm not. I'm still puzzled as well, but I'll mull on it. Tammy, any closing remarks?
I think that we are seeing an opt-in that is working in its own way. People are choosing to be here.
I am.
I am.
And it's useful to ask the people who are not yet opting in what's blocking them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the best answer for now, Sam. Just ask them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
With that, we are complete for a moment.
Okay.
Thanks for inviting me to debrief with you guys.
Okay, awesome.
I love it. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.